friends, I hope this month's video blog finds you well. I'm fresh off my annual Bike MS event, and the first thing I want to do this month is to thank all of you who have supported me this year and throughout all of the years. I'm currently 25% of the way to my goal of $10,000 for this year, and even though the actual biking event has come and gone, you can still help by donating at some point in the next week or two. My team and I have until July 20th to round up the last of our donations. That being said, I have to say that this year's ride was one of the best ever. The best way I can describe it to you is that the entire weekend was like a love fest overflow. I saw so many friends that have been such an important part of my journey living with multiple sclerosis. There were countless hugs, smiles, knowing glances, and cheers of support. It was fabulous. In many ways, it was also extra special to me because less than 2 weeks before the event, I had a little mishap on the roads, which made it look like I might not even be able to ride at all. I'm happy to report that not only was I able to ride, but I hit my goal for what I wanted to accomplish on the ride this year, even if it was an adjusted goal. Let me take a moment to tell you a little bit more about goal setting for me as it relates to both Bike MS and life in general. Many of you have heard of the concept of SMART goals. The concept of SMART goals points out that all goals should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. SMART. I love the concept of SMART goals, and it can work for many people in many situations. That being said, I sometimes find that level of intensity when it comes to goal setting to be a bit overwhelming and out of alignment with my best purpose. As someone who has lived with MS for 43 years, I've had to learn how to adjust my expectations in many situations. I sometimes refer to it as learning to accept my new normal. For example, in the past, I always had a goal of riding a century on the Bike MS weekend. An actual century is to do 100 miles in one day, which I have done many times in the past. More recently, I've adapted my goal to shoot for a weekend century, which would mean riding about 65 miles on Saturday and about 35 miles on Sunday. A year or two back, I started to think that even doing 100 miles over the entire weekend really didn't serve my body any longer, so I started to adjust my goal to ride a metric century. In other words, 100 kilometers, which is 62.3 miles. I almost certainly would have been in a position to ride the metric century for this year's Bike MS event up until the point I injured my hip and had to question whether or not I was going to be riding at all. I didn't despair though. I did my due diligence, getting treatment and making sure that I wouldn't injure myself further if I attempted to ride, even when it came right down to it. My medical team told me it was my decision and that I could choose to ride if I wanted to, but I should be mindful of my body and make good decisions. I still had a dream of riding a metric century, but in reality, I told myself that I'd be okay if I was able to ride at all on Saturday and then see how I felt on Sunday. Now this leads me to my vision on goal setting. Lately, I've been shifting more into a concept of 3 levels of goal setting, and I applied that concept to this year's Bike MS ride. The first level of goal setting for me is what my coach refers to as the initial goal. This year, my initial goal was just to get on my bike and ride, even if it was for 1 mile. The second level of this new vision on goal setting is called the secondary goal. My secondary goal was to be able to ride somewhere in the range of 30 to 35 miles on Saturday and then see how my body felt going into Sunday. I'm happy to report that I had a wonderful 34-mile ride on Saturday in extremely hot, humid, and very windy weather, and I was so proud of myself. The third level of goal setting on this three-tiered goal setting approach is called the ultimate goal. My ultimate goal this year was to do the metric century. But based on the way my body felt on Saturday night after riding 34 miles, I decided to take Sunday off and just take a roll as support. I was also proud of my decision to go easy on my body and to not force myself to ride on Sunday. On Sunday. I can apply the same strategy to my fundraising for the Bike MS event. My initial goal is always to achieve what is called my give-get in order to hold my seat on the board for the MS Society. That basically means that my team and I need to raise at least $10,000, of which $1,000 must come from me personally. I've already achieved that goal. My secondary fundraising goal is for the team to raise at least $15,000. So far, we are at $13,330, which is so close that I know we will reach it. My ultimate goal is to raise $10,000 myself. And as I said at the beginning of this video blog, I'm 75% of the way there. I still have hopes of accomplishing this, and we'll just see what the next few weeks bring. Being a part of Bike MS for more than 20 years now has truly changed my life. Sometimes I don't notice what an impact my work with the MS Society has done over the years, but every once in a while it becomes exceedingly clear to me. On the Sunday morning of the ride this year, I was handed the microphone and given the opportunity to wish the cyclists off for a great ride. Normally, I'm uncomfortable with unscripted speaking opportunities, but this time it felt great. It was like I had a script in my head, and when I was done, I didn't think what I had said was anything important. But then afterwards, so many people came up to me and to tell me how meaningful my words were. When I packed up to leave on Sunday afternoon, Kenny, who was the MC for the weekend, he made an announcement on the microphone to call to attention that I was leaving. He announced to the entire audience on that second day that I do so much for the chapter, and it felt so good to get that recognition. Setting goals in life is important. In my mind, though, being graceful with yourself about what those goals are going to be with respect to living your best life is essential. My ultimate goal is the same as it has always been. My goal is not just to survive with MS, but to thrive living with MS. Thanks to the help of all of you and the MS Society, that goal continues to be one that I can reach on a day-to-day basis. Well, that's all for this month. Have a wonderful July. I'll see you again later in the summer. Ciao, ciao for now.